so I'm really excited to bring out Amjad Masad and Arjun Singh. Amjad is the CEO and founder of Replit, which is the platform for software creators that allows you to write and test code directly in your browser, harnessing the power of AI and collaborating with others in one place on any device. And Amjad is going to be joined by Arjun, who is the co-founder of GradeScope, which helps teachers administer and grade their assessments and track their students' progress using AI-assisted grading tools. And it's a program utilized by many higher education institutions, including Purdue, NYU, Harvey Mudd, and many more. And so, here for a fireside chat on AI and the future of software creation, please welcome Arjun and Amjad.
Hey, Amjad.
Hey, what's up, Arjun?
Hey, so today we're going to talk about bringing the next billion software creators online. And one of the things that I know is a really common question is we keep hearing about AI writing more and more code, really high quality code. You can even ask Ghostwriter to write you an app now. Is it still worth learning how to code?
Yeah, so I get this question a lot. It's probably the #1 question I've been getting over the past year, since the whole AI thing really hit mainstream. And my answer is always, are you crazy? Of course. It's the best time to learn how to code. In the past, when you learned a little bit of code, the best you could do is write a tic-tac-toe game. You spend a month learning how to code. You can't really do anything useful with that skill. But now, if you spend a month learning how to code, learn the basics of syntax and the basics of program structure, you can work with an AI to build a startup. And we have a lot of people who come to Replit with zero coding experience. Like literally, they've never written a line of code. We have this course called 100 Days of Python, where it's 20 minutes a day out of your busy schedule. And we thought that it'll take you 100 days to do something useful. Instead, people are taking anywhere between 15 and 30 days, and then they're able to build like really large-scale software. I was talking to someone the other day who just did 2 weeks of coding, and now has a software app, 3,000 lines of code written with GPT-4, and they're saying every time they hit a bug or they hit a problem, GPT is actually teaching them, and they're learning along the way. So the return on investment of learning a bit of code has, I think, at minimum 10x over the past year. So I think it's the best time to really get into coding.
So it sounds like it's going to be a little different to be a developer going forwards. I mean, can you talk a little bit more like what that's going to look like, what's going to mean to be a developer right now, and maybe touch on like what skills are going to be more relevant and less relevant?
Yeah. So I think the sort of hardcore software engineer, that sort of maybe is not changing all that much. Maybe you'll get a little more productive, but if you're writing sort of system level engineering, that's going to have a modest change. But the thing that's really going to change tremendously is the people that are building products. The people who are not interested in software for the sake of software, but they actually want to do something. They want to do something in their lives, they want to do something in their jobs, they want to start a company, they want to build a product, they want to automate some part of their workflow. I think that's going to really change tremendously. And the act of programming changes from you sitting down and figuring out how to design the systems to more having a conversation with an assistant and being able to iterate on the assistant's output, giving it feedback along the way, helping you teach, helping you learn stuff. And you're more guiding it with your creativity. And with software like Replit, where we abstract away the entirety of DevOps and the sort of drudgery of setting up software and all the minutia that comes with that, and now you really have this smooth experience with a chat assistant that is helping you generate code, with an assistant inside your code, debugging your code, and getting all the way to deploying an app and making your first dollar.
So are we going to get to a point where all of this stuff is natural language, or do you think kind of the code itself is going to continue to be valuable to know how to use?
I think code is going to continue to be valuable. And this has to do with some of the limitations of these systems. We're talking backstage about some of the limitations of the GPT-like system, which is ultimately they're going to make mistakes, and you're going to have to be able to debug these mistakes. They're going to misunderstand you, and you're going to have to be able to read the code in order to adjust it. So I don't think code is going away anytime soon. Maybe you'll have to drill down into code way less often, and over time, maybe that sort of disappears over decades. But I think coding is here with us today.
Do you think you'll still be able to be like an entry-level software developer, or do you kind of need to have that desire to build a product as well, you think, then, going forwards?
Yeah, I think I see it as sort of bifurcating a little bit, right? Like where on the one hand, you're going to have the product person that's really motivated to make something that users like, and they're motivated to talk to users. They're acting more like a product manager. And then you're going to have the sort of deep software engineer that's building the platforms for these product people. So I think depending on your your aptitude and how deep you want to go, and I think the thing that's sort of at risk is sort of the middle. So the software engineer that was like doing more back-end development, that's sort of gluing a lot of code together, that maybe is getting squeezed out by both ends, right? On the one end, you have the sort of platform engineers being able to be more productive and doing more with AI agents and AI assistants. And on the other hand, you have the product engineer that really doesn't have to worry about backends as much anymore, and that sort of squeezes out the middle.
So let's say we get to this point and we bring on 1 billion of people that can use these systems and create new things with them. Like, what does that mean? What do things look like?
Well, one of my the people I admire the most in the sort of computer industry is Alan Kay. Alan Kay is an early computer pioneer. He worked at Apple. He was the first to design a tablet, and he said that the computer revolution hasn't started yet. The reason he said that is because most people are consumers of software, are consumers of computers, not producers. The original vision of computing was we were all creating software. We're all making software. I remember when my dad bought us a computer in the early 90s. I was born and raised in Amman, and my father was a government engineer. And he put all his savings into buying this IBM machine. And I remember, I was maybe 6 years old, and I remember walking into the room, and he had this big manual, and he was learning how to code while he was using the computer. And at the time, the vision people had for computing is that we're all sort of, we have this agency to create and manipulate software, manipulate data in a way that any software engineer can today. But over time, there's this schism between the creator and the consumer. So, after, graphical user interfaces became mainstream, sort of you have this world where you have the software creators, the software engineers in Silicon Valley, in the ivory tower of Silicon Valley, and everyone else is the sort of the consumer. And I think that creates a lot of problems. Everyone is talking about algorithms and how inscrutable algorithms are and how they run our lives, and we do not know really what they're doing. And I think that's a symptom of this problem, of this division between creator and consumer. So my hope is that we go to a world where every kid learns how to code, and everyone will be able to use software the way it's meant to be used, and giving you the full power of the computer. And then the question, what kind of world will that be? I think it's really hard to predict, because, if you think about the printing press, that was a huge moment in human history. And after the printing press, we had the democratic revolutions, and we had scientific revolutions, and we had all these things that we could have only gotten with reading and writing. But it took 100 years from when the printing press happened until there was actual literacy and there was actual change happening. So I think in the same way, I don't think we really know what the world looks like when everyone can use software to the full extent of their power. But it feels like it's going to be something positive.
Yeah, so let's switch gears just a little bit there, because obviously a lot of the code is going to be written by bots. And one of the things that has got a lot of hype recently is AutoGPT. Maybe tell us a little bit about what that is and kind of what you think that and those complex agents might mean for software development.
Yeah, so the original use case behind GPT-like software is, what Microsoft called co-pilots. And the idea is that, they're sitting next to you, they're completing your work, they're helping you, fix mistakes. And that's like not a fundamentally new paradigm of software. We've always had things that helps you with grammar. Everyone uses and loves Grammarly. These are all Copilot style software, right? It's just a much more powerful technology. Now, AutoGPT and sort of autonomy is somewhat fundamentally new technology, which is you're actually giving the bot a higher level task, like book me travel for a family of 5. And then through very creative series of prompting and reflection, the bot goes and actually breaks down the task into a lot of different tasks and starts to follow these chain of tasks and starts to do them. And there's some really fun demos in the internet of booking restaurants, of booking flights and organizing trips and doing complex tasks. But it's sort of still in the toyish period of that. And so I think maybe the hype is sort of almost a little too much. I think this technology is still unreliable, fundamentally unreliable. Like I wouldn't have it run anything financial at our company or anything really mission critical. And so there's a long way to go before these autonomous agents can actually do really interesting things in the world, and we can trust them to do that. But one thing we're working on at Replit is, can you create a safe environment for these autonomous agents to interact? For example, say you're in a code repository and you want to implement a feature and you want to give it as a high-level task for a bot. What the bot can do is fork off the environment and create a sandbox and try to implement that feature and then send it back for review. And I think that's really the kind of thing that we're going to see autonomy starts to impact our lives, is being able to create these sandbox environments and being able to look at the dry run of what the bot wants to do and then accepting or rejecting those steps.
Yeah, so it sounds like we might not be quite there just yet with kind of them writing code on their own fully, but going forwards, what percentage of code do you think is going to be written by a human versus kind of the output of one of these models?
It's already significant. So users who use Ghostwriter, our AI, ChatGPT-like tool, we hear anywhere estimates from 30 to 80% of the code being written by AI, and that's also significant. Like this technology is very, very new. I mean, GPT-3 came out in the late 2020, public release in 21. So really 2 years into this, and the impact is very significant. And in AI, as being a PhD in ML and working in AI for a long time, the 80% is way easier than the last 20%.
Yes, for sure.
So I think maybe it's going to start asymptoting, and we're going to have difficult time going and generating the 100%. But I think it's already quite significant that they're writing so much code.
So one of the things you guys released not too long ago was kind of Replit mobile app and kind of encouraging people to write code on mobile. And I remember when I first saw that, being a little bit skeptical. And now, with AI creating more and more of it, I can sort of see it. Can you talk a little bit about why you think mobile is so important for the future of software development?
Yeah, you were a little skeptical. Some people were so repulsed by that, some software engineers, that you can put code on a mobile device and start calling us names, being really angry about us. But Replit's mission is to power the 1 billion developers. And for us to do that, we have to be on every computing device. And what is the most popular computing device in the world? It is the phone. It is the Android phone particularly. And so it just made sense for us to invest in that. And by the way, it was a pull from our customers. We already had hundreds of thousands of users trying to use Replit on the phone, especially from countries like India, Indonesia, South Africa, and it became a no-brainer for us to start investing in that. And so we built the mobile app. We think it's the best code editor on the phone in the world, and we innovated a lot of new sort of game-like interactions that makes coding a lot more fun on the phone. It's still limited, but we think this AI technology, we released a demo the other day where you can talk to your phone. You can say, make me an app that can track my workouts. and the AI thinks a little bit and then generates the software. And then my hope for the interaction is that you're not really typing on this like small screen. You're actually having conversation with AI, right? Like it generates the first app, or like, oh, I don't like this or that. I don't like this code. Make this better. Make that better. And so you can make personal software. I heard from someone on Twitter today where they're using Replit and Ghostwriter to generate software to run their everyday lives. They're making games for their kids. They're generating software for just like really everyday activity. And I think really that's the future of something like our mobile app.
Cool. So can you talk a little bit about how you actually build AI into your products? I think early on, or maybe still, you kind of used these big open source model and tweaked it from Salesforce. And you recently announced a really cool partnership with Google where you kind of use their LLMs to power your stuff. Those are the opposite ends of the spectrum. Can you talk about how you see that and why you're doing that?
Yeah. So right now, most people when they think about this generation of AI, they think about OpenAI, they think about GPT-4, they think about these really large models that takes hundreds of millions of dollars, perhaps billions of dollars to train and operate. But at Replit, we took a bit of a contrarian view when we started building our Ghostwriter product. And we said for domain-specific sort of vertical use cases, you can actually train and use off-the-shelf open source model and fine-tune on top of that using your data to create a great user experience for one domain. So the reason GPT-4 and their ilk are very large and hard to train is because they're trying to be general. But not every use case is general. You don't need something general to kind of ask it to write a piece of Python for you. And really for any use case, even like marketing copy or what have you, it's for every one of these companies that are using GPT-4 right now, they could be using a smaller model. And there's all these techniques now to create smaller models. You can distill small models from large models. On the other hand, there are use cases that you fundamentally need big models. And those use cases is like when you're talking to the AI about general topics. Let's say you're designing a piece of software and you want the AI not only to help you with the code, but also to help you with the marketing copy, with the go-to-market strategy, with the entire process end-to-end. So for us, we got really good at training small models. But for the big models, we wanted a partner that can actually provide this service for us at a cheap enough cost so we can provide our users at an accessible rate. And that's why we partnered with Google. We think Google has the technology. Actually, we got a demo from Google last year before GPT-4, and Google had GPT-4-like quality. Their Palm language model was already there, but they just haven't really exposed it to the world. And now Google is moving really fast, and we're excited to partner with them to bring this technology to everyone and make it more accessible.
So for a lot of folks, they may have learned about Replit today or very recently, and they might kind of thinking of Replit as a bit of an overnight success. I remember using Replit back in 2011 or 2012 when it was a little JavaScript library you could put on your website. And I think it's really cool to kind of see somebody kind of take their vision and take it so far forward to the point where you can actually become the thing that brings so many people online to building code. Can you kind of fill some people in a little bit on how you got to this point, what's next, and any stories that are worth sharing?
Yeah, so I had this idea. I was going to college back in Jordan, and I didn't have a laptop. They were expensive back then, 2006, 2007. And every time I wanted to write a little bit of code, to learn how to code and to do some homework, I had to spend hours setting up my environment. I had to download gigabytes worth of software. And by the way, that still happens today. And so I started dreaming about a world where I can just open my browser window and start coding. But it required so much infrastructure to build in order to get to a point where you can actually code in the browser. So the first thing we did was actually we built the first open source in-browser sandbox environment. And this is what you use in 2011. And we open sourced it. And we gave it away for everyone. And it created a mini revolution in kind of learning to code. And Code Academy, Udacity, you used it. And so I started getting job offers. And so I got I got a job offer from Code Academy. There were 2 people at the time. I joined them as the first employee, and I got an O1 visa, came to the US and worked in Code Academy, and we had 50 million people learn how to code using that technology. But we didn't really start Replit as a company until 2016, and that was because we had to wait until we had a green cards, and if you quit your job, you get kicked out of the country if you don't have a green card. And so, we had to wait until we had a little bit of money in order to start the company. And so it's been a long road, but it's been very exciting to see us kind of start this revolution and play a part in this world where more and more people are participating in the single most important wealth creation thing that's happening in the world, which is the internet and software, and that's what really drives us day to day.
That's really cool, and excited to see more. And thanks so much for the conversation.
Thank you. Appreciate it.